The recent Pokemon Direct was filled with unexpected features. We have an open world segment of the game, we have raid battles, and some kind of crazy giant forms for Pokemon, but the craziest reveal for me was that James Turner is the art director of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, if you already knew who James Turner was going into Direct, you might have thought something similar, and that's what this video is going to be breaking down. And with that, don't forget to leave a like on the video, share this discussion with all your friends, and check out the description for more about Pokemon, which brings us to the most noteworthy thing about James Turner, and it's that he is the first Westerner to ever officially design a Pokemon. So he's living the dream of every English-speaking Pokemon fan and kid out there, because he was able to get into Game Freak, have a Pokemon design approved, and then become real, and now he is the art director of Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is one of the most important positions in the game, shared by legends such as Kin Sugimori. Which is why I find this crazy, like this reveal was unbelievable to me. But with this notoriety comes quite a bit of infamy, because those who know James Turner also know that he made Vanillite. So when you think about it, we have the first Westerner. We have an English dude designing Pokemon. What's he known for? Took until Generation 5 for it to happen. Vanillite, Vanillish, Vanillux. So, yeah. And thinking about it, Golett, Golurk, those are some of my least favorite Generation 5 Pokemon and some of my least favorite Pokemon ever. Bullabee, Mandibuzz don't really do much for me. Now, Phantom and Trevenant are some of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 6. I think they're fantastic ghost Pokemon. Buzzwole, Guzzlord, Poipole, Naganadel. So we did a lot of Ultra Beasts. I'm not a big fan of Ultra Beasts. I don't know many people that are big fans of Ultra Beasts, if I even know any. I just know that they might exist. And then he also finalized the design for Bruxish and drew its reference sheet, which also kind of shows like an art directy kind of role. Now, I wouldn't expect the jump from Bruxish to Pokemon Sword and Shield, but then when we look at some of the other things he's credited with, Art Chief of Gale of Darkness, he also did design Shadow Lugia, which I think is pretty cool, Troze, and Battle Revolution. So he has had an art director role and just straight up director roles for things like Harmonite, Timbo the Badass Elephant, Pokemon character design, and Pokemon Ultra Sun Ultra Moon, and a lot of design, section director, character design stuff, Pokemon Sun and Moon. So he has a lot of experience. And the thing is, Pokemon Battle Revolution is my favorite Pokemon game that isn't a main series Pokemon game, and I think the art direction of that was fantastic. Like, Poketopia is the dream when it comes to Pokemon. So from an art director standpoint, pretty strong. And I'm also wondering, like, what else he can bring to that. So on top of this, I just kind of want to talk about what James Turner has been saying about Pokemon Sword and Shield. To answer some questions, unfortunately, I can't reveal who designed which Pokemon for the time being. I can reveal that I don't speak that slowly in real life. I'm speaking slowly in Direct, so I can be dubbed in different languages. In reality, I speak normal human speed. So he has a good sense of humor and that British wit about him, but that's one thing that I'm like, okay, which Pokemon from Pokemon Sword and Shield has James Turner designed? Because if he's taking that art director role, did he design more than he has in the past? You know, 7, 8, 9, 10? Were any of the Pokemon that he revealed in the Direct Pokemon that he designed? Because if he's buying Corviknight, I think that kind of gets rid of all of his past sins, because Corviknight already looks like it's going to be one of the best Pokemon, and if there's designs better than Corviknight hanging around, that's going to be pretty cool as well. But then just the art direction, he doesn't really explain it, and there isn't really much in interviews or any kind of breakdown from Game Freak about how the art director works. Like, I don't know how much of an absolute role that it is, but so far, everything I've seen about Pokemon Sword and Shield is fantastic, from the region, to the open design of the world, to the cities, to the Pokemon, to the characters. Like, all of it just looks fantastic, and it makes me feel like this is going to be one of the most expressive Pokemon games, and hopefully just the best Pokemon game that we've ever had so far. So, looking very successful on that front. Then a few other things. Thank you everyone for the nice words about Pokemon Sword and Shield and my role as art director. We've been hard at work on this game for a good while. Thrilled to see it revealed and see people's reactions. So he's also actively talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield and having that interaction and kind of being like, you know, an English-speaking Link, but also not able to kind of say everything. And even when you follow Junichi Masuda on Twitter, he doesn't really say much about the games. He just kind of recaps what's being revealed and all the official stuff. It seems like he's definitely been a lot more interactive on Twitter recently, and then also kind of bringing that back in with Pokemon. Like, we have this. You know, a little mock-up I made, a game set in an alternate universe where John Wick's puppy is the action hero. James Turner is very talented, and just kind of like the Pokemon designs that people disagree with kind of follow that, but when it comes to the other things, you know, he knows how to make a good aesthetic. He's directed several games and also just has like good game development under him. Then he either just like makes some good art, retweets people's art, just kind of covers some things. So yeah, like a pretty cool dude overall when it comes to all this. So yeah, I feel like a big part of Pokemon Sword and Shield's success is going to be because of James Turner's art direction, and it shows that he has like a lot of respect in the company to have such an important role, and he's also given us insight into how things work at Game Freak, which is really cool to think about coming from someone who isn't Japanese. So here's the model sheet I drew of Poipole for Pokemon Ultra Sun Ultra Moon. After your monster design is approved, you draw it in detail for 3D modelers and animation artists to reference, and the whole thing about the concept art, I feel, has really become something that people care about because of what happened with Pokemon Sun and Moon. We had the final evolutions of the starters being leaked. That led to a lot of other leaked concept arts and knockoffs and fakes and stuff. But then we got to see all of them, and then James Turner talks about Poipole. And we just look at it, you know, he knows how to make a good reference sheet. He knows how to concept art really well. Even if you disagree with the design or how it like reflects back into Pokemon, it's still just really good monster art. So I think the insight is really cool, and it seems like he's very approachable. He retweets things, he replies to people, he says what he's allowed to say. Like this tweet right here, I find very impressive just because he's seeing a lot of people talk about it, and he makes a statement, which is something that we generally don't get from Nintendo, Pokemon Company, Game Freak about anything. Now, I do disagree with some of his decisions, like acknowledging anything from PokéJungle, but what can you do? Now, this also goes into another interesting thing that he's tweeted in the past. I was art director on Pokemon Trozei and Battle Revolution before I joined Game Freak. I think Sugimori liked what I'd done. So Ken Sugimori was like, dude, this guy represents Pokemon super well. I like the way he does the art or like the art direction for these games. Just come on and join Game Freak. And then you got character design and all kinds of other things. So that kind of follows up. You know, Pokemon Battle Revolution wasn't made by Game Freak. It was made by Genius Sonority, and that was who he worked for. Coliseum, Trozei, Battle Revolution. So the games that he has worked with. And yeah, that's kind of just how spin-off Pokemon games work. Not always made by Game Freak. Pretty much almost never made by Game Freak. They mostly work on the main series Pokemon games and stuff like that. So then there's another interesting thing. There's a Canadian dude at Game Freak too. We mostly talk Netflix recommendations. So not just like James Turner being the only Westerner that can do main series Pokemon or just any Game Freak work. I hope that actually kind of builds like a bridge between Japanese expectation of Pokemon and then the rest of the world. Because, you know, it can feel like maybe Game Freak is focusing too much on the Japanese audience at times and Japanese culture and expectations. So with him having such a respected role, it seems that he might have influence on the games, which brings me to a theory. Now, maybe if I get enough wrong about this, James Turner might tweet out some kind of correction or something, but I feel like James Turner is the reason why we have the wild area between his art direction and also his input, because when you look at the build-up, everyone just saw Nintendo Switch into Breath of the Wild, into Mario Odyssey. There's no reason we don't have an open-world Pokemon game. There's no reason we don't have a free camera. There's no reason that we don't change the formula like we saw with these other games that have been massively successful. You know, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, and then just the capabilities of the Nintendo Switch. And now that the main series finally gone to a console, you think, console main series Pokemon game, everything's possible. It shouldn't just be like what we've had on the Game Boy for years. Something like that. So I'm wondering if maybe he's more in tune with the community. As you can see, the way he interacts with the community. He replied to a lot of PokeTubers. He replies to people like PokéJungle, or not replies, but, you know, acknowledges them. So he has the pulse. He is a Pokemon fan like all of us and has that more Western desire, or at least that Western understanding of what Pokemon fans want. So I think that could have also been a very massive point of influence, because traditionally, Game Freak Masuda, they haven't really considered open world Pokemon. In a Game Informer interview back in 2017, so transitioning from Pokemon Sun and Moon into Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Pokemon Go blowing up, and then also having the E3 announcement of the Pokemon Switch game. You know, when we're making a main series Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch, we got that at E3 2017. So again, the major discussion point became, open world? What are the changes going to be? Masuda's response, not sure it'd be suited for going out and catching Pokemon. What? So, and also that's another thing, like Game Freak and Masuda, they get a lot of pressure from people outside of Japan. We have Game Informer doing this interview and asking about Breath of the Wild and opening things up and having some kind of open gameplay. They're like, I'm not really too sure about it if it works for Pokemon. Eurogamer, during the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee interview cycle, Eurogamer kept pressuring Masuda about an open world experience. You said earlier there were a few things that never changed in Pokemon Go, but have changed in Let's Go. With Nintendo choosing to make others like Mario and Zelda more of an open world, for the next Pokemon, did you want to experiment with more of an open world with exploration and roaming? So I think this means the next Pokemon beyond even Let's Go, because it worked for Mario and Zelda, it worked for these other games, we know Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch is capable of it, why not Pokemon? Then Masuda, so with the Pokemon games, I'm sure you all know we're always trying to make them fun and appealing for players of all ages, so I can't really commit either way, but if we find a way, I think it's possible if we were to find a way to preserve the fun and kind of broad appeal of Pokemon and have that kind of open gameplay. That is a possibility. It's hard to say right now, which is kind of baffling for anyone I could imagine watching this video or any Pokemon fan. Open world Pokemon experience sounds like the ultimate Pokemon dream that was only gated by handheld consoles. That if you think about it, what would an open world Pokemon experience be? Living in the Pokemon world. You just bring the most real Pokemon gameplay. You see a Pokemon over there, you go there. You're not going to be restricted by any boundaries or something, and then you can go on the adventure and recreate a true Pokemon experience. I don't understand how Junichi Masuda finds difficulty in making that an actual thing, and with what I see in the wild area, even Pokemon Let's Go, being able to just find Pokemon in the overworld and expanding how Pokemon encounters have worked. Just keep pushing that until we end up at full open world, and Pokemon's gonna be incredible. Pixelmon was massively successful before it got shut down, and that's kind of come back and stuff. But, you know, it was officially taken down. That's copyright. Nintendo don't like that. But the reason why Pixelmon is so successful is because it gives you that opportunity. You can build your own adventure and then have a true Pokemon experience. And it's all open world, and it's all like these crazy Pokemon interactions. That's been going on for years, and people loved it. So then, you know, Eurogamer keeps pushing it. Okay, thanks for answering that, even if I can't say until everyone already knows. So last time we spoke, let's go back to the Let's Go reveal in Japan. So he's even bringing up like, hey, you know the reveal like 4 or 5 months ago, that interview we had? We talked about open world Nintendo Switch games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, and you mentioned that there's a possibility one day Pokemon might follow suit. I know that's purposely vague, but is that still something that's being considered? And effectively, it's still on the cards. So this is October 2018. I would imagine it would take more than just a few months to just slap in the wild area, especially when we look at the map and the design of the Galar region. So maybe Junichi Masuda kind of trolling us on this to maybe not be like, yeah, we're going to give a full open world game, but having open world portions and them exploring that for Pokemon gameplay, it was being worked on, which is why they said it's a possibility, it's on the cards, it's a thing. You know, it's a different matter whether players actually enjoy that kind of playstyle. I mean, I love watching Pokemon run around in Pokemon Let's Go and things like derping into corners or having these interesting interactions or like popping up or chasing you down, even though it wasn't intended, just kind of happened. But you really know, things like setting up an AI so that you know the real world Pokemon appear, different ways to appreciate the game. I'm always thinking how to approach the Pokemon series from different aspects, so in that sense, it's still in the cards. So these different approaches have been acknowledged, but they don't seem to be like full gung-ho like, yeah, it's actually something we wanted to do, or it's something that we're actively trying to figure out. They're just thinking like, if we could do it, it might work, but I don't think it's gonna work. So I feel like with that, you know, we have effectively every Westerner I could imagine when it comes to Pokemon shouting about Pokemon Switch having to be open world or having to have these open gameplay elements, as Junichi Masuda's just kind of like shuffling around on the topic. So I don't know if that means these Western influences inside of Game Freak were able to push for that, especially someone like an art director with James Turner. And then the wild area seems to be one of the best features ever implemented into a Pokemon game, and it could just get better from there. Or also just make it like a spin-off game. Just make a crazy spin-off open world Pokemon adventure game, you know, like Breath of the Wild going so crazy and changing things up. Just do that for Pokemon. There's so much possibility that has still been untapped, even over the 2 decades that Game Freak has been around, and players and fans are starting to get really upset by that. But at least we're seeing some good steps, despite the interviews, and then progression from non-Japanese people inside of Game Freak. So it's a pretty crazy thing, and that's why I find that, you know, James Turner being the art director we're gonna see how it goes, but so far it doesn't seem that terrible, despite the few things that people might have issue with about James. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.